Hi, good afternoon. My name is Michelle Spence. I am a Regional Partnership Manager with Learning.com. I'm excited that y'all joined today's webinar to see an overview of Learning.com and CTE, the Future Ready Solution. I have Justin, Manny, and Abby here with me as well. Okay, so first of all, happy CTE month. Thanks for joining this call this afternoon. We celebrate this month with you, and we appreciate the value of CTE and the achievements and accomplishments that each of you have made with your CTE programs. All right, so a few housekeeping items. All of you are muted at this point. If you have a question, type it into the chat bar on the right. Justin's going to be monitoring your questions and comments. This is only a 30-minute presentation. We have a lot of information to give, and I want to be super respectful of your valuable time. We promise to end on time, and we have a great prize we're going to give away at the end. One of you lucky ducks is going to win a 4-month classroom subscription to EasyTech, which you'll find out what that is, for 35 students. Abby's going to pull a name randomly at the end. And also one thing we noticed is there are some current customers on this call as well. We wanted to make sure that you all got a prize. So if you're a current customer, we are going to offer you 2 hours of free professional development from our amazing customer support team. One other thing I wanted to point out, on the right-hand side, if you can navigate, there is a section called Handouts, and I have put a few handouts which I will reference throughout this presentation that you all can download and take a look at. If you have any questions about that, of course, go into the chat, and Justin, Manny, or Abby are happy to help you guys out. Okay, so let's get started. So first of all, do you agree with this statement? Think about your own personal experience when you learned technology. How do kids learn digital skills? Do you remember the very first time you did a search on the internet? I remember mine. I was looking for Yoo-hoo, which is a weird thing. Anyway, what about your very first cell phone? Or even how you learned to post on Facebook or Twitter, if you even know how to do that now. And I can even imagine that some of you can remember the first time you learned to use a VCR or even type of paper on a word processor. So there is absolutely no telling what this baby is going to have to learn over the next few decades. So let's start with thinking about digital literacy. What is digital literacy anyway? So how about we start with what it isn't? Are you surprised by any of these? Did you think of any of these things when I asked the question? All right, so how about we take a look at what digital literacy is? So I'm imagining by now that your districts have invested in digital literacy in some form or another. You might have even spent time and money and developed really detailed plans. This work is so meaningful and it's so super hard. You're obviously super progressive thinking because you're attending this webinar today. Given this challenge, given what's going on in today's world, it's imperative that you have an effective and scalable digital literacy curriculum. So we are the partners. We've done this over 20 years, and we would absolutely love to be your partner too. So today's students, these guys are immersed in a digital ecosystem. It's an environment that demands technology skills in every one of their aspects of life. So these skills aren't just nice to have skills, they're must-have skills. We know this. There was a 2020 survey done by Pearson that showed that the #1 skill that parents wish schools and teachers would teach was, you got it, technology skills. So speaking of 2020, we all know what happened when our students and our students and teachers were forced to go 100% digital and online. Those lacking fundamental skills and access, they fell even further behind. This is now actually being coined the COVID-19 slide. Here's just a few comments from mainstream media. This is the coverage of COVID-19 and what its impact is and has been on equity and the digital divide. So when you think about the impacts of COVID-19 and this pandemic, can you think of any examples of areas that you wish your district had been better prepared to support your CTE students? If there's any specific thoughts, We would love to hear them. You can put them in the chat. Justin will be monitoring that. You can share that out with the group. You guys can read those. I would love to hear. We're always learning. I think it's Manny mentioned once that we think the key word is pivot, that all of us have had to pivot and learn how to work in this environment. And it's super interesting. Hindsight is 2020, right? Which is super interesting because it's 2020. But now what could we have done differently? And God forbid, what can we do thinking forward? Okay, so enter remote learning. So school districts are at the center of this 3-part remote learning plan. When we think about a digital divide, most times we're thinking about a student's lack of access and lack of access to devices, to the infrastructure, but a lack of a cohesive plan for both digital use and digital readiness are also super major factors in this whole digital equity piece. So you all are in CTE, right? A super important question is, what key skills are employers looking for? Here's a research study. It illustrates this demand from future employers. What skills are they looking for? And this chart shows those top 10 skills between 2015 and 2020. Notice 21st century skills, they haven't changed much at all. They're as critical as ever. But also take a look at these key soft skills. They've moved up in their ranking of importance. This, again, emphasizes the need for programs that explicitly address these particular skills. So this is the part where I ask you some questions and I don't just talk to you and give you the answers. So you may or may not have heard of this, the $1.3 trillion problem. The point here is that our country, our economy has lost money because of this low technology skills that people bring into the workforce. So about 1.3 trillion every single year is lost because of this lack of skills. So there's a few different areas that we have percentages and some stats that I wanted to share with you. But I thought if you'd like, you could take a piece of paper, take a wild guess at these. I'll read through them and then I'll share with you what the answers are. And we'll see if they were super surprising or you were right on it. So what percentage of middle skill job openings require a knowledge of digital productivity tools? So when I say digital productivity, those applications, right? Like a word processor or a spreadsheet program. So what percentage of middle skill jobs require those that knowledge? Okay, so how many in 10 workers master their workplace tech tools? Master them. So we all have tools that we use with technology in our jobs. How many feel like they've mastered them? Another one, what percentage of employees say that in their work week they spend on reading, writing, or even responding to an actual email? And I'm just going to throw this out. How many of our kids actually even know how to write a proper email? So that's a whole other conversation. But what percentage of employees' week is spent on that? What percentage of all tech jobs are outside of the tech sector? This includes transportation, healthcare, education, finance. What percentage of those tech jobs are outside of the tech sector? And then how many in 3 workers report that they're not proficient in the technology required for their job? They say, hey, listen, I don't have the skills I need to actually even do what they're asking me to do. And then the last one is, what percentage of those currently entering the workforce have considered low skills in problem solving with technology? So think about that, which is super important. You saw it on the last slide. So what percentage of those entering the workforce have low skills in problem solving with technology? All right, so I'm just going to click through these quickly. It was 78% say that these middle school job openings require digital productivity tools. That's super high. I wonder how many of you thought it was that high. 1 in 10 workers feel like they've actually mastered their technology tools. 28% say that they spend working on reading, writing, and emails. 67% of the jobs are outside the tech sector. 1 in 3 report that they're not proficient in the technology that's required for their job. And last but not least, of those entering the workforce, 58% have low skills in problem solving with technology. Hence the $1.3 trillion problem. A couple more slides just to back up the whole need for what you do and what we have to provide. Take a look at this. According to this particular study, adults are moderately skilled. Just every average adult is moderately skilled in technology at best. And then one last thing, how about computer science? So think about this one. the country's most successful smartphone company, the most successful retail company, and the most successful car manufacturer in our country all have one thing in common. So we're talking about Apple, we're talking about Amazon, and we're talking about Tesla. So all these things have one thing in common. And that one thing is that all of their founders were computer science students. When you take a look at this chart, you think about the lack of representation among females and minorities skews their self-perception and whether they feel a sense of belonging in their field, which it halts their interest and, of course, their advancement. And when you think about it, this lack of representation impacts all of us. So we've got to figure out how we're going to face that. And one last thing I just want to throw out is that I believe it can be argued when you think about career readiness, when you think about what we're talking about today, career readiness can be three things, defined as three things: digital, problem solving, and STEM and computer science. And we have a way to help you with all three of those things. So who are we? We are Learning.com. We were founded in 1999 and our headquarters are in Portland, Oregon. For over 20 years, we've been focused on providing educators with solutions to prepare their students with critical digital literacy skills. And you can see our numbers here. We're super proud of the fact that we work with over 1 million students every day, over 1,300 districts across 48 states. We've also been we've also been leaders in this industry. Hopefully, if you take a look at this, you'll notice some of these awards. We're super proud of these awards. Just as of last year, we won an Excellence in Technology Award. All right, so there's a lot of things really wacky and going wrong with this picture, right? Okay, so this image it tells a lot. So work with me here. Let me suggest an analogy for what we're going to be talking about. If you set out to become a weightlifter like this guy, you got a goal of lifting 400-pound barbell. Does it make any sense to start training with 400 pounds? Of course not. You would start with maybe 50 pounds and build up from there. Well, we do the same thing in education. It's called scaffolding. In mathematics, you can't aim for success in 8th grade algebra if you haven't learned fractions in 3rd grade. Same thing in literacy. You can't teach reading comprehension without first starting with phonemic awareness and sight word mastery. The same is true with technology. How do we help students achieve deeper learning and with the rigors of STEM without first ensuring fluency of fundamental technology skills? Digital literacy, right? Okay, so maybe some of you have heard about Quadrant D. This comes from research and work of Dr. Bill Daggett. He's from the International Center of Leadership in Education. Quadrant D describes learning that's characterized by high academic rigor, as well as the application of knowledge that solves real-world problems. Students that are exposed to Quadrant D learning have competence. They think in complex ways, and then they apply the knowledge they have to solve these predictable and unpredictable problems. Rigor is also defined with Bloom's taxonomy. It begins with knowledge and awareness, and then it builds towards higher order thinking. The goal for our student is to move from a simple knowledge acquisition to comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation. The whole idea is to move kids from just rote knowledge to actual application, right? I mean, I'm talking to CTE folks, you all understand what I'm talking about, which is the application of the knowledge. So this pedagogy is at the center of our comprehensive solutions for future readiness. Our comprehensive K-12 product offerings cover digital literacy for K-12, coding and computational thinking for K-12. We also have a computer science solution for middle school, which I'm going to share with you. So let's take a moment. Let's explore what Learning.com has to offer. I'm going to come out of this PowerPoint. Justin, I'm going to ask you if we have anything while I'm pivoting here. You notice I used our word.
No questions yet. Nothing on our end.
Okay, I'm going to keep on moving. All right, so first things first, if a student has access, student and teacher, excuse me, has access to the internet, they can go on, they can type into, the URL, they can type into an address in the internet, they can access our curriculum. So this is our home page. Students would have their own unique username and password. Then they would also have their district listed and or the school. They can access this curriculum anytime, anywhere. They could access it in the lab, on a laptop, on their pad at home, a PC at grandma's house. So they have access to this 24/7 as long as they can get on the internet. Notice here we have a passport feature. This is great for the younger kids, although I notice teachers and older kids use it as well. One of the questions may be, how could a student access if they, can't type or can't keyboard? So this is using a QR code that allows them to enter the program. Also notice you could log in using Clever or ClassLink. So this is a way to use your SSO to log in. It syncs with your student information system, which is a beautiful thing, so that if you have access, which you all probably understand this, but if you have Clever or ClassLink, you can actually access our platform directly through that system. So once students log in, teachers can log in as well to their management system. They go into their journey. And so this is a learning journey. Notice, first of all, it's fun. It feels good. It feels like a place that a student would want to go. So you want to go here, you want to hang out. You also know very clearly what your journey is. You know you're going to be working through a series of lessons or projects. This particular setup, a student's going to work through the first thing, and then they're going to work through the second thing and so forth, but I can always see where I'm going. A couple things I want to point out to you. We can earn prizes. So right now, I may have chosen Natalie as my avatar. I could be Marcus or Landon. Eventually, I'll unlock more prizes, more avatars, more things that I can customize my desktop. There's an arcade where I can earn prizes. I can earn more practice time, more fun game time. I'll always know how close I am to earning one of those prizes or how close I am to earning stars. Over here, I wanted to show you here. So you can see that students get some tips. So if they want to go in on their own, they can see here's a checklist to getting started, maybe some tips from your teacher, some tips for working online, being safe online, and so forth. And you can also see here, that this is how you enter your lessons. So if I were to launch a lesson from Learning.com, I simply hit a button. It would look just like this. It would launch my lesson on remote learning, spreadsheets, what have you, and then I would walk through that lesson. I can see here what my progression is. These lessons are anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes long. This is a particular lesson on remote learning, but of course, I'll talk about that a little more. There's lots of different lessons. If I am a student, I actually can go through here and I can turn on subtitles. I may have English subtitles, Spanish subtitles, or have them off completely. And I may actually want to control the playback speed, slow down that lesson because I need support in that way. So another thing I wanted to point out to you is our curriculum. So when I said, okay, so we're learning about remote learning or we're learning about computing fundamentals. So this is in the teacher interface where I can see my entire library, where my classes are set up, different content areas, and I'm able to search by grade. You can see, again, I mentioned we're a K-12 product. I can go by content area. So when you think about digital literacy, we're talking about online safety, computing fundamentals, presentation software. These are all, quote, content areas of what we offer. And you can dive into any of these. You can assign them out to your students. It would automatically assign. You could do a full sequence. I know that I want my students to learn online safety. I'm going to just assign an entire sequence. They're going to get a pre-test. They're going to get a full sequence appropriate to their grade level, post-test, and so forth. Super easy to manage. And then when you log into one of these areas, you can obviously, what grade levels it's appropriate to, how many minutes the lesson is, or the project, is it a discussion, is it an assessment, is it a lesson? And then I can punch right into that and find out a little bit more information. So let's dive into one of these areas. I actually did pick internet usage, and let's take a look at what that looks like. So this is when I click into the internet usage lesson. This particular lesson is on online information basics. It's a 15-minute lesson. So I'm going to take you through and you just get to see a little touch of our curriculum. So when you access our curriculum, the teachers can see all types of lessons, information, objectives, their standards alignments, even language support. They can preview content. These different content areas develop your students' digital skills. Digital skills like keyboarding, computer fundamentals. They build their proficiency in things like word processing, presentations, spreadsheets, even multimedia tools, and they enable them to practice critical thinking and problem solving. This is computational thinking problem solving. They're designing real-world solutions with coding. Across the content area, students have hands-on and collaborative practice using digital tools and skills that are the foundation to successful technology integration right in the classroom. EasyTech has the ISTE seal of alignment. It's aligned to national and state level computer science, digital literacy, and technology standards. Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint at this point. Quick check, are there any questions or any comments? We'll keep moving.
No, you're good. All the questions have been answered, and we're good to go.
Awesome, thanks, Justin. Okay, so just a quick reminder, our curriculum offerings cover all of these technology skills, applications of software skills, and even these advanced digital skills like coding and robotics. So our product offerings, I've mentioned this several times, but I want to make it very clear. We have something called EasyTech. EasyTech is that product that's aligned to all those standards I talk about. It accommodates learning styles. We have the management tools. This is that digital literacy, full, complete curriculum to teach all of those skills we just talked about. We also have what's called EasyCode. This is where we bring in real-world coding. We have a project-based and a block-based product. So one is for the elementary students that teaches JavaScript, and then we also have the text-based programming, which is Python, teaches project-based Python, and we've even got support to start working towards the MTA Introduction to Programming with Python, which is a certification exam, which many of you in CTE are aware of. We have test prep and lots of practice, and we actually have students in middle school working towards that MTA, which is super exciting. So obviously, we're super proud to have these partners. We're working with these leading technology companies like Common Sense Education. We cover the most comprehensive K-12 digital literacy solution available. I just want to point out, too, I mentioned this earlier, but we do integrate with LMSs like Canvas or Schoology. We support Clever and ClassLink, as I mentioned, which syncs with your SIS, your Student Information System. One more thing, have you heard of Project Unicorn? So this is a pledge. It's to keep the highest levels of security and privacy and interoperability for vendors. So I'm guessing this is super important that you would expect this from your partners. And so it's super important to us. And of course, we've taken that pledge. So here's a quick quote. I think it's always important to see what the customers have to say. This is one of our customers up in New York. So does it work, right? All right, so let's talk a little bit about efficacy. ISTE, I mentioned earlier, ISTE-S, so they came out with standards. They have digital literacy standards, if you're not familiar. This is the international standards for technology and education, and they have standards for students, they have standards for teachers, and also districts. So we took those digital literacy standards, K through 12. We had 2 different assessments to assess those skills, and they were practice-based and question-based and performance-based, and we had 5th grade and 8th grade tests. Well, here were the results. Do kids know how to do this stuff? I talked earlier. Well, only 25% of these kids in both 5th grade and 8th grade, 30,000 kids we tested, only 25% of them scored proficient in any of those ISTE skills levels in 5th and 8th grade. So using EasyTech lessons helps. So if you see here, we have pre and post assessments or quizzes, excuse me. So pre and post tests for every skill level at every grade level. So we were able to take a look at those skills. Well, how did your score change pre to post based on how many EasyTech lessons, which you saw what one looks like. Every time you do one of those lessons, if you do 4 or more, you're going to show a 37% growth based on the study that we did. And these lessons I mentioned are sometimes 10 minutes long, 12 minutes long. So imagine it's an hour of your time to improve at that level. Here's another one, online assessment. This went crazy, right? Because a whole bunch of folks had to take online assessments that were used to using paper and pencil, and that technology gap really affected them. This was a great study. This was out of Arizona. This was the ASMERIT, which is their end-of-year test. We tested students to see, hey, if you did, EasyTech, would it help you improve on your online testing? And sure enough, if you do over 20 EasyTech lessons with our program, you improved, or I'm sorry, 55.8% actually showed that they tested above average on the ASMERIT test. So they were able to score at that higher proficiency than somebody who didn't use our product and learn those technology skills. Okay, so let's talk about implementation, and then we're going to wind down here. So we know how to help you roll this thing out, right? So we know how to make this effective. I just mentioned we've done this for over 20 years. This is just a few examples of some of the content that's contained within our service packages. These are the things that we have to offer our customers. Our customer support team is one of the very best in the industry. I'm also super duper excited to share this. We have a brand new online training center. I've been on a lot of calls. Manny and I had a call just this morning, and one of the demands that we're getting constantly is, give me something that makes it easier on my teachers on demand so that they can just go in, learn this stuff on their own time, you know, at their leisure, 24/7. This is an online class. It's got step-by-step series of classes and topics. It supports the teacher 100%. This has everything from how to set up a class, navigate that platform, how to run a report, all the stuff in between. Like I mentioned, it's anywhere, anytime support that you can have. So next step. How am I on time, guys? Oh, excellent. Okay. All right. So here's our next steps. These are the things that we thought of that we could, if hopefully you're thinking, so where do I take this to the next level? So the first thing, follow us. So we, of course, are on social media. We're on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. So please, if you can, come follow us and become connected and follow and learn more about what we have to share. Our customers are part of our community, and we would love to have you. Abby can, if you want, just put in the text if you want to know what any of our handles are. You can always go to Learning.com. I say this all the time, but the coolest thing about our company is that Learning.com is the name of the company, but it's also our website. So if you go to Learning.com, I think you scroll to the bottom and you can find any of these icons and find us. We'd really love for you to talk to us deeper. So schedule a demo. I mean, I showed you some stuff. I gave you a flash of what this looks like, but we'd be more than happy to go one-on-one virtually, of course, at this time. But bring up the product, have a conversation, answer your questions. We have a whole team of digital literacy experts who've been doing this a long time. We would love to sit down and talk to you, explore your needs, answer your questions, ask you questions, find out more about what you're doing, and maybe help carve out a solution like we've done with, you know, right now I told you, you know, over 1 million students we're helping. So we would love to support you and your students. That being said, Justin, where do we stand for our conclusion here?
We are good. Great job. No more further questions, and we have about 1 minute left.
All right. Well, I'm guessing that means that oh, sorry. Oh, that's right. I was going to go to the winner, but I need you to know how to reach me in case you have a question specifically for me, or you just want to reach out and thank me for today. Just joking. But if you need to find me, this is my email address. Again, my name is Michelle. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, but I'm available to everyone virtually nowadays. So anytime, feel free to email me, and I'm happy to answer questions, meet with you, and so forth. So now we're ready